Hey, so it's Digital Fam, and I am doing another behind the scenes live stream. I'm just setting up, uh, going to log on to Metaverse Radio, and I'm also having an X space just waiting for my guest Tidus to enter the space so that we can get started. Just establishing. Hey, good morning, everyone. On this Tuesday, April the 23rd, this is Digital Fam, and welcome to Tech Talk Tuesday, broadcasting live on Metaverse Radio and also on X Space. So, hope everybody is having a wonderful day. Can you believe it is almost May? Where in the heck did the time go? I know that as you get older, time goes by really fast, but this is just absolutely incredible. I want to do a shout out to anyone out there who is listening and who are celebrating birthdays, anniversaries, or something really fantastic in their life. If you think about it, you need to celebrate, not you need. People should find something to celebrate every single day, and that would just make things a whole lot better, don't you think? But I don't know if we can like celebrate it with cake. That'll just be way too much. Um, just want to do a shout out to the team at Metaverse Radio for making this happen. You need to check them out at metaverseradio.com. There's a lot of great broadcasts happening and more to come. Before we start, I do want to say that this program's content does not necessarily represent the views of Metaverse Radio and is for entertainment only. It is not legal, medical, financial, or investment advice. The hosts, guest speakers, artists, and other collaborators may have personal or financial interests in the subjects they discuss. So, please critically assess the information presented. Not all content is appropriate for all ages. Listener discretion is advised. And there you go. So, here's an interesting topic today. We are going to be discussing Web3 security. I know for those people who are listening to Metaverse Radio, you may or may not be familiar with the term. Basically, it's the same as it's debatable. I read articles on it, and some people say no, it is not cybersecurity, and then yet there are articles online saying it is under cybersecurity, or they talk about it within the realm of cybersecurity, and that is why we have today Tidus.eth. He is an infrastructure and security engineer, and he'll just give us the scoop on latest trends. In Web3, especially dealing with cryptocurrency and cryptocurrency wallets and how to safeguard your NFTs in your wallets. There have been a number of incidences in the past, and most recently, I think a few days ago, where somebody's NFTs were actually all taken. Someone was able to hack into this person's cryptocurrency wallet, where you also can hold your NFTs, non-fungible tokens. In this case, it was her artwork, and she turned them into NFTs, and she worked really hard with her collection, and it had all gone taken away. And it's really, really devastating. It's almost like if it's almost like yeah, it's almost like not your life's work, but when you put passion and time into something that you believe in for a community, and then it gets taken away, you almost want to kind of like, I don't know, like just go away and have enough, and just it's like enough. And this is what this one particular person did. But thank God for the community and her followers. They all rallied to her support. They all suggested ways in how she could possibly retrieve the NFTs, or how it could have possibly happened, to prevent it from happening again and happening for other people. So that's really great about the community for sure. So here's something interesting. You never know when You never know when you never know. Things happen in real life, and sometimes you just have to go with the flow. And right now, I am going with the flow. I am waiting for my guest, Tidus, and he currently is not in the space yet. So you'll just have to be listening to me talk for a bit until he comes on. I did ping him, and I hope he's fine. And I'm pretty sure the time is all right. But yeah, with that said, it would really be great to get some music going on. I know that this is Tech Talk Tuesday, and in the current space that I'm in, there's a lot of talk about like cryptocurrency, NFTs, artificial intelligence, mixed reality or extended reality, which involves virtual reality and augmented reality and all the realities in between. But let's not forget to focus on our own reality, especially for some of us that where the weather is nice and the grass is actually turning green or has been green. There's a lot of my tech friends that are very much immersed in projects, and obviously that involves hours and hours and hours of screen time. And what's been going on around the tech space anyway on X and in the communities that I go through is people are now saying they're not just reminding each other to don't forget to drink water. They're also saying don't forget to touch grass. Like that's really a thing. It's crazy that we have to remind ourselves to drink water and to touch grass. So it is what it is. At least we're all looking out for each other, and it's just fantastic. Hope everybody's doing really well out there. And these types of broadcasts, it is one-sided when you are listening to a radio station, unless you call in. And maybe one day we will have that feature where people can call in. And that is why we have this extension where we use XSpace. And for those of you who are wondering, what is XSpace? Well, it used to be formerly called Twitter until Elon Musk, the character, came in and bought it and did a whole revamping of, I guess, the team or the workers of Twitter, and then called it X, gradually rebranding it to XSpace. And so that's what we're doing. It's basically like social audio. And for those of you in Metaverse Radio, you cannot see this. I'm actually live streaming it behind the scenes of me it's really a talking head. And I need to drink water. So that's what's happening. The great thing about these X Spaces or social audio platforms is that it can be two-way, meaning you can easily bring on guests. You just send them a link and they come on as a listener. And then there is a feature that you can click on their account and indicate them to be a speaker or a co-host. I don't know what is going on, everybody. I feel like I need to channel my inner Hexadized. If you don't know, Hexadized has been doing these Tech Talk Tuesday spaces. I believe he started early January 2024. And lucky me, I have inherited it. And I feel like I need to channel the inner Hexadized energy. Now, so because this topic is avoiding scams in Web3, it's really about avoiding scams in general. Like, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, what level of status you are, who you are, what your background is. For some reason, you will always either be, vulnerable, hopefully not too vulnerable, to any type of sort of scams. They could be scams where people can walk up to you in real life and persuade you to do something or say something or offer you something. I know that that's happened to me a number of times, especially in the mall. I'm not saying that a lot of these kiosks in the mall are scams, but you know how there's these kiosks in the center of the hallway, and then they do have like products or services, and then when you're walking from one retail store to another, they kind of approach you and then they ask you, oh, would you like to try this? And even though you kindly turn them down, for some reason I always find myself, in front of their kiosk and listening to their spiel. And I know that there's one product that I bought and I paid a lot of money, not that much, but it was a lot for me. And then it really didn't work. That's one type of scam. You also know scams in terms of like like getting money from credit card scams. So much types of scams. But there's that Web3 is no they're not safe in that. As a matter of fact, you see a lot more of it. Maybe because mainstream adoption for Web3 isn't really, we're not all there yet. And I guess I'm just surrounded with, yeah, it's like I have a whole plethora of friends in Web3. So that's all I ever hear. And it's really interesting the way people try to get or hack into the cryptocurrency wallets or get people to click on certain links and get people to give up their passwords or seed phrases for their crypto wallets in the hope that to help them with any issue. And meanwhile, these people who don't know, they just readily give up their seed phrase. And a seed phrase is almost like a password, except it usually involves about 12 secret words that's specific to your crypto wallet. And you're not supposed to give it away. You're not supposed to like really have it like stored in a document somewhere online where someone can see it and use it. It's preferable that you write down your seed phrase in a piece of paper in a bunch of places, not saying that what it is in case somebody looks up these 12 words, but that's what it is. So these unsuspecting people will give away their seed phrases or passwords to their crypto wallets to people who they think are admins or moderators of certain NFT projects or companies. And then, lo and behold, that's the entrance to their crypto wallet. And then it's all drained of all Ethereum, any cryptocurrency they might have. And it's very sad and really devastating. A couple of years ago, there was someone that lost about, I would say, $100,000 worth of Ethereum in US dollars. And he it was really interesting. He wasn't as devastated as I thought he would be. And I did have a chat with him and he told me the situation, and I'm just going by what he said. And then he said oh, okay, yeah, all these scammers, like I actually lost about 100K worth of the US dollars in ETH. And then I'm like, and he goes, man, did I ever learn my lesson? And that was it. And then I asked him, well, how long ago was this? And he goes, oh, a few months ago. And I guess he processed it and got over it because he wasn't really like phased. And I kind of like looked him up, and it seemed like he was not kind of like new to the crypto space, or at least new to investing. In other words, it seemed like he had a lot of funds or enough funds where losing 100K, although that's a lot of money, it didn't hit him as hard financially as it would other people. Meanwhile, there are other people who had lost like 1,000 dollars worth of a certain US dollars worth of a certain cryptocurrency, and that is just devastating. And it doesn't matter, regardless of what the amount is or what people take from you. It's really a blow to your person. I know it would be for me, definitely. I do want to say that, so this person that is an infrastructure and security engineer, I've never heard of infrastructure and security engineer. I've heard of like the different types of like white hat engineering, like hackers that hack to keep companies' servers and systems safe. But I met Tidus during, I think it was early Saturday morning for me in a space called social engineering. And if you don't know what social engineering is, it's basically manipulation. I call it a mind hacking. Social engineering is basically manipulating someone through words or giving them a sense of urgency or fear, or like especially like fear of missing out, or if they do this, they can get something amazing. So it's sort of like manipulating their emotions so that they can be vulnerable. And then once they're in a vulnerable state, the social engineer person that's doing the manipulation can easily like hack into your email or get you to pretty much what I just described, get you to give them a password or your um, like links to your bank account or especially your email. And a very common form of social engineering, I believe there are like 4 or 6 types last time I've seen, is like phishing. Phishing, phishing, right? I'm pretty sure anybody's listening right now, you've all been privy and victims of phishing scams where you have an email sent and you kind of like, oh, it depends on the email tagline. Sometimes it's very exciting and it feels like you won something. But that was back like maybe 20, 15 years ago. Those emails were happening often, and people who weren't used to it, it kind of gave people a sense of like, oh my God, I won something. And then they click on the link and so on and so on. And then as you go through the different links in the process, they'll say, however, if you need to, in order for us to give you your reward or a certain amount of money, we need your access, we need your bank account, like whatever, your bank account number so that we can deposit it. And then you give it to them, and then they'll say, oh, there's some issues. And then all of a sudden your bank account is drained. So it's pretty much like that, social engineering, but it's really the focus is on manipulation, and getting somebody to be in a vulnerable emotional state using, like what I said, like a sense of urgency, fear, and all that stuff. I'm forgetting that I'm actually live streaming, so I'm not even looking at the camera, but whatever. This is a behind the scenes, so here I am just chatting behind the scenes. And well, it is already 19 minutes past the hour, and where is our guest? Oh, where? Let me look. Let me see if he's messaged me. I don't think he has. Oh, I think. Okay. Let's see. I'm just Oh, okay. I see. Let me see if I can actually. Is this the link? Yes. That's interesting. It's supposed to have started, and I did start, but apparently he's saying he can't seem to join yet. But then it says start now when it has already started. So here's the thing. Thank you, Elon and the X team. I've been going through a bunch of Twitter Spaces or X Spaces, and there's been a number of issues over the past 2 weeks with people not being able to or can't go on. Like, it's crazy. It says here I've started it, and interestingly, he says it's not. Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm gonna have to restart it again. That is so crazy. Okay, Elon, this really sucks. So it started here on my mobile phone, and yeah, so it's funny, he's talking to me right now. This live stream is just my own personal live stream that I just do. It's independent of X Space or anything. I just do this live stream for fun. It's just for me, for personally, and I show it on my I guess personal accounts on social media. Now, just to get people to, like, especially friends in the community on Facebook, to say, oh, what does Digital Femme do? Oh, that's what she's doing. And kind of like spread the word more to contacts that may be following me. But I'm actually open here. The interesting list. So for those of you in Metaverse Radio, the Twitter space is actually open on my mobile phone. So I don't know how many other me's are there. And this is what happens. So I guess what we can do is we can either start the stream again. Okay, I'm hosting it. Isn't that interesting? I totally understand the hosting thing. It says right here, I'm just going to show it. I'm on the space and I'm hosting. I'm a host. So I don't know what's going on. We may have to do another link. That's great. I'm going to screenshot it just in case, and I will show. Yeah, crazy, crazy, crazy. At least we are started on Metaverse Radio. Nothing's actually fine. This is all good. Let me see what could be the issue. Dot 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 dot. I guess I can create another space. Let me see if I share this and it won't even. Yeah, I don't want to leave any dead space on Metaverse Radio. So this is where I feel like we can have some kind of music. But what I will do is I'm going to play something while we come on. And let me see. Dot, 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 dot. Let's play some music for a while until we figure out what's going on in the X space. And by the way, shout out to Elon. Thanks a lot, Elon. Welcome to TED Talk Tuesday, a place to learn and grow. Gather around, let's share stories and watch our knowledge flow. We're building Web3's, a future that's bright and new. Come join the conversation, there's so much we can do. From blockchain to AI, the latest tech is here. We're diving deep, exploring how it all appears. Connect with the experts, contribute to the code. Let's revolutionize together and watch our dreams unfold. Welcome to TED Talk Tuesday, where ideas ignite. Let's learn, let's connect, let's take our future to new heights. We're here to stay, let's build something truly great. TED Talk Tuesday, the podcast that can't wait. All right, that was great. And that music was created by Suno. So that's SUNO.ai. And I know that there are other AI music generating software out there. This was created for Tech Talk Tuesday. Not sure if I'm going to change it up. But thank you, Elon. Again, I have restarted. There you go. That is the indicator of, oh, look, a space is starting. We're going to send a new link. And how wonderful. So I had to restart another Tech Talks Tuesday X space, and hopefully this will work. And there it is. There's proof I'm a host again. I must have been in another dimension or realm for sure. So I'd love to welcome Tidus. Finally, woohoo. And it's no fault of anybody's, but totally blame Elon's team and X Space 100%. I was wondering, hey, shout out to Elias, one of the 3D mappers of Over the Reality. Elias, thank you for joining. Crazy of all your pizzas yesterday. It was like making me insane. Tidus, welcome.
It's good to be here. I'm glad you got everything working, and I never know what's going to happen on X. What matters is that it works now. So thank you for being patient, and yeah, I'm here.
No, thank you, and I'm glad that I was just, I was sitting on that space, and I was like, where's everybody? And I'm thinking, let me see if you messaged me. And because I silenced every notification, I did, and I thank you for letting me know. Yeah, you never know what's going to happen. I've been into spaces where the co-host couldn't hear the hosts and some speakers. It's like crazy, but I'm so glad you're here. Really liking it. So how have you been? How was your weekend?
My weekend, I felt, was like the usual, I guess, like a combination of cleaning and doing security research. I feel like that's like my whole like free time these days. I used to just have the time to play games and, like have like kind of a 9 to 5, but I don't think crypto and, Web3 in general doesn't really support working during very, very rigid hours. Like I feel like we all have to sort of adapt to the scene as it sort of, evolves.
That is so true. Like earlier on the space, I was saying that the common reminder it used to be don't forget to drink water, and now it's don't forget to touch grass.
Seriously, work-life balance is kind of shattered by some aspects of crypto, and I guess like the idea of like that's not how it works. Like we don't have specific hours where we do trading. Like this isn't the stock exchange, and it isn't like a Web 2.0 office where you go to work between 9 to 5 and like take your weekends off. More like the opposite. Like we're all sort of adapting to whatever happens in the moment, and a lot is happening basically every moment. So there's a lot of value being exchanged that we sort of need to be aware of. And from a security perspective, that means adapting to whatever bad things happen.
Oh, I know. Did you see like last week? Thank you so much for showing your support to that one particular person whose like wallet got hacked.
Yeah, that's unfortunately a daily experience in Web3. I guess sometimes we see it and sometimes we don't. And the higher profile accounts like ZachXBT will bring attention to the very, very large value things. But the real problem here is just that like Web3 hasn't addressed security as a priority. So, we'll get there, but until, it's something I'll come, it'll be discussed over time as we talk about, the aspects of security. I don't want to go into too much detail on that right now.
That's true. Okay, so you know what? Let's get started. I really want to know, I'm curious, can you tell us a bit about your background and how you got into infrastructure and security engineering, like especially in the context of Web3 and blockchain technology?
Sure. A lot of people, so the infrastructure and security engineer title, like that's all titles are sort of irrelevant when it comes to this space. Like what you know and what you can do is what's relevant. And so I won't say that like infrastructure and security engineer is some magical, default title for anyone. What I have done in the past is worked on infrastructure as a service, basically. So infrastructure as code basically means taking, like the architecture that says build servers based on these conditions and, install this software and configure them with this database and have them do these things. So, like as code, you can basically recreate environments in a scalable manner. And so that's the infrastructure engineer aspect of things. As for the security engineering part, that's a little different. In crypto, we basically are constantly adapting to threats when it comes to two sides. One of those is the infrastructure needs to be, I guess, like patched up against whatever vulnerabilities might, allow attacks from the server side or the client side, as well as the ability to go, hey, do our smart contracts permit any sort of bad behavior? Like, what's a great example? I guess like, you don't want somebody to be able to double spend on transactions or to drain liquidity as a result of like a certain function being available to people it shouldn't be under certain conditions, things like that. So we're constantly going, okay, is this safe? And what should I point the front end to make sure that it is safe?
That's no, go ahead. Go ahead. No. What are you going to say?
Yeah, all I was going to say beyond that is that I started in a very different field than this. I eventually did get to sysadmin work, which led me to security and DevOps and things like that. But back in the day, I basically just did web development and I learned a lot about front end stuff. And I worked my way up to doing network engineering stuff back when that mattered more, back when we were dealing with bandwidth on a more, I guess, specific level. I think a lot of people in Web3 didn't really have the background I do. And so what happens is they understand certain aspects of software, but anything behind the scenes beyond that often just isn't something that they ever needed to learn. So when I look at problems, I look at them from a very stack level kind of aspect. So I'm curious about hey, who has access to things beyond microservices or beyond APIs or stuff like that. And so I'm able to kind of assess threats a little differently than some. I'm not saying that it matters. I'm saying that, that I have a different background, and my background took a long, road journey, whatever you want to call it, to get here. And I'm happy that I have some relevance there. But yeah, I did a bunch of different things. Everything from systems administration work to IT in general, and of course the automated infrastructure as a service types of things. I love using tools, and I love focusing on basically how environments can be as secure and scalable as possible, while also providing what I would describe as a robust user experience where there's CDNs involved so that they have a fast interface wherever they are in the world, and that they have the ability to transact safely, as safely as it is using the wallets that they have and the environments that they have. But yeah, I spent about 15 years in Web 2.0. I invested in Doge about 11 years ago and finally started getting into the community aspect of things in 2019. And I've been doing Web3 work since then.
Oh, wow. I love that you have such an extensive background on so many things. That really makes you such a valuable, valuable member to any team or corporation or community because of all that type of experience. You know what I find it a little bit frustrating that in Web3, security isn't a priority when you think people would have learned that in Web 2. Because you know that when the internet first came on, and then 10, 15 years later, 20 years later, in the companies that I've worked with, in corporations, security has never really been a priority. And I feel like it was about the C-suites, and they weren't really educated on putting money in. It to me was always a budget thing. It always was a budget thing in terms of equipment, because I used to be friends with all the IT people, and it was always a budget thing. Some of their systems were so dinosaur, it was ridiculous. And I know you know this, right? And he's laughing. For those of you in Metaverse Radio, he's throwing out the 100% and laughing emoji because it's so true. Okay, I want to ask something else. Okay, right now, regarding the current state of Web3 security, and I know you say it's not a priority in most cases, but how would you, are we making progress in addressing security risks, or is it getting more complicated?
Well, I would say it's getting less complicated, but I'll explain. The surface, the attack vectors continue to grow as we continue to try to innovate and do things that are, maybe a little more wild or a little more complex with smart contracts. And that's cool. I actually enjoy that. I like that the space is going, hey, let's, do more with less. And let's, instead of maybe necessarily defining standards, we'll just take the standards we already have and, cram more metadata into them. Ordinals is a good example of that. I don't think ordinals was ever the intent of anyone, expanding Taproot, for example, upgrades on Bitcoin. But in the space in general, I think we've had the libraries and we've had the ability to implement better security on wallets and, front ends in general. But I think we're using that less than we should be, especially considering I haven't seen much adoption of these things. Now, for example, a lot of people don't want to use things that cost more gas. So they won't use smart contract wallets, or they aren't familiar, so they don't use them as much, or they're not MetaMask, or they're not popular. And so the issues are, for example, one of my favorite open source technologies that's also a standard is ERC 4337, which is better known as account abstraction. And that gives you the ability, for example, through the Argent wallet on iOS or Android, the ability to have multiple signatures as a default way of interacting with blockchain, which is a beautiful experience from a security perspective and actually really friendly. But no one likes it because it's not MetaMask, which is just tragic. So they're not using it very often. But it's been around since before I even joined this, the Web3 space in 2019, which means that we're choosing not to use open source software that makes this possible. However, we are starting to see, for example, there's a company named Alchemy that's been doing really great work in providing education, but also APIs and SDKs for modern crypto. And one of the great examples is they have a gas manager API, and they have an account abstraction SDK, which allows you as a builder, as someone composing a Web3 product, to have APIs available to sponsor gas transactions. And that's a really good experience from an onboarding perspective. So suddenly you don't have to have this situation where you're interacting with a centralized exchange and going, hey, I can't do anything here unless I KYC and send crypto somewhere to a wallet that hopefully I get right. And, it can't be an L2 usually, though Argent does allow that as well from Coinbase, which is really cool. But usually you're doing this weird combination of like, if I want to interact with an L2 for the first time, and I've never done crypto before, you're registering for an exchange, a centralized exchange, which they've been known to fail, sending your crypto to a wallet on an L1 and then bridging it to an L2, which is just possibly the worst experience I can think of, let alone all the aspects of trying to get the security right with that. Whereas, let's say I wanted to provide a much smoother experience, I could sponsor gas on an L2 and allow a user to have those first interactions that are gas enabled. And yeah, that way they can, pay me in fiat if they absolutely have to, and I can be kind of an onboarding for them. But the important part there is the usability aspect. And so we're not talking about sending hundreds of dollars to wallets, just the ability to even use a DApp, a decentralized application. And yeah, that's possible much more now through libraries like Alchemy provides.
Oh, wow. That's great. You know what? There's so much more. Now that I'm listening to you speak, there's just so much more questions I have. But that, I'd love to have you on again. Definitely. There's just so much going on in the Web3 and security. It's like, it's moving super, super fast. And it seems like you've got such a really good grasp on the state of Web3, especially when it comes to security and all its facets. Definitely got to have you come on. Now, recently, a couple of days ago, there was that incident where a woman's wallet got hacked, and somebody took all her NFTs, her NFT collection, I believe, and she's like an NFT artist, and she was really preparing to, I think, launch these for the community, and it was really devastating to her, and it was sad to see her. Like she showed her feelings through X Space, and I just really felt. Yeah, I really empathized with her. Tidus, what are some of the common scams you're seeing in the world of crypto wallets and NFTs? Like, can you share some examples of how people are being targeted?
Absolutely. Some are, much more common and well known. For example, one of the more popular ones that seems to have stuck around for a while is people convincing other people to go, okay, here, just interact with my DApp, just interact with my website or whatever it is. It's a safe transaction. It's gas free. But what you've done in the past potentially is you've gone, hey, I want to sell my Bored Ape or something like that on OpenSea. And so you've approved a contract called Seaport to spend your NFTs effectively. So that NFT worth, maybe $80,000, $100,000 is suddenly available to OpenSea under certain conditions. And those conditions involve usually a simple gas-free transaction, which basically says, hey, take these assets, put them into a list for a trade, and as a result of the trade being successful or under these conditions, send them to this other wallet. And as a result, people are suddenly draining these assets from wallets using a transaction like that, which doesn't even involve gas. It just involves one little signature. And that's unfortunate. However, those signatures have a very, I would say, commonly structured set of it looks like JSON. It's very familiar. And if you know what to look for, you can be like, hell no, I'm not signing that. But the important thing there is that people are choosing to sign these transactions and interact with, other third-party platforms using a wallet that has high value assets in them. And they're not doing this with any security mindset in place, which means that they're going, hey, I'm just going to keep degenning and being potentially irresponsible with my assets by having high value assets mixed in with things that I interact with new things daily. And that's highly risky. So from the days that Ethereum was very new, there was this accepted standard that every time, for security reasons, every time you interact with a new decentralized application, you use a fresh wallet. So what you would do each time you create a new, you interact with a new smart contract, basically, you would create a new wallet in advance and send ETH to that new wallet using the previous wallet that you aren't interacting with. So basically you keep that wallet fresh, separate, and you create a new wallet just for the purpose of interacting with this new smart contract. And that allows you to protect all the assets that would have been interacted with if you hadn't segregated those assets. So that's a very common tactic to go, hey, let's reduce our attack surface. But there are many other ways to do it as well. The probably the easiest way is just to not go, hey, I'm just going to, choose a little more carefully what I interact with in the first place, because there's no guarantee that your money, whatever, will get stolen or otherwise interacted with poorly by the other end. So I think what people are trying to do, and this is, really, like, I don't blame people for wanting to do this or not understanding, is that they want to interact with everything, because in Web3, basically people are looking for airdrops. They're looking for rewards for having interacted with things. And that's tricky, because if you split those interactions across multiple wallets, you're basically breaking provenance for some of those things. You're basically saying, hey, I'm all these different wallets, but I'm maybe going to get the rewards from this one. So what basically people do to protect their assets is kind of do it in slightly reverse than the way I described, which is to go, hey, I've got expensive things here. I'm going to put these in a wallet that I don't touch, and they call that vaulting. That's basically the way to do it. It's the way that you can keep things safe and still use what they call a hot wallet, a wallet connected to the internet. And that allows them to go, okay, I'm going to have a lot of low value transactions or high value transactions in one place. But the ability to risk those assets becomes segregated as you put those high value assets into a different wallet. And so they're separated. That's most of it. There are many other ways to scam people. Like, for example, there are scams as a service. There's one called Pink Drainer, which basically takes 20% of the assets that are stolen from the user, and the other 80% go to the wallet that is trying to scam. And so, like, literally scam as a service is nothing new, but in Web3, that's kind of a sad way of, going, hey, I need to worry about interacting with certain wallets. There are protections you can do. One thing I do, for example, is I use an extension called MetaSuites. It allows me to identify more easily if I'm going to interact with a specific type of wallet, or if I see it on Etherscan or tools like that, which means that as I interact with things that are blockchainy, I get a little bit of additional context, and that makes me a little bit safer. It's just one thing I use more for information than anything else, but maybe someday it'll protect me from a bad transaction too. For other people, it might be more likely to. There are other tools made by apes. People have created one called Wallet Guard, which allows you to protect MetaMask transactions and block like entries that are, like if you're visiting a website that is known to be bad as a scamming website, and you're not the first person to do it or something like that, then you get the ability to go, hey, someone else has reported this thing is bad, and you probably shouldn't interact with it unless you know what you're doing or you're willing to risk your assets. So there are ways through third-party software to sort of protect yourself. None of those really replace the ability to reduce the risk that you're taking on in the first place by leaving all your assets in one wallet. So yeah, separating assets. Also, the one thing I only briefly mentioned was the smart contract wallet thing, which allows for something called multisig. That's the ability to sign transactions from two different sources. And while that won't protect you from doing bad things, like interacting with a smart contract that's going to steal from you, it does protect you from, for example, having someone act as you with just access to one wallet. So, for example, if malware is installed on your computer and you need two signatures to make a transaction happen, unless they also have malware on your phone or something like that, then they don't have the ability to act as you.
That's interesting about the ability to act as you. I see that so often in especially in the Web3, like on Discord, on Telegram. It's just ridiculous. Also, I have never heard the term scamming as a service. That is like, and
yeah.
When did that, is that a new term, or has that been around and I just today is when I knew?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that I know the origin of the term or, when it was first introduced, but I will say that botnets are the earliest example of something I can think of, which is where people have gone, okay, I'm a bad actor and I'm going to provide an entire network for other people to use in return for some money. And then they can use it to do things like attack the infrastructure of that service. So because these computers are like centrally controlled from one place, but are all disparate, they're basically hacked devices all across the world. If I suddenly go, okay, I want to compromise a service, take it down or make it slow or make it unreliable in some way, I can choose to pay some money to some person who has access to all these, remotely controlled devices that aren't supposed to be remotely controlled. Maybe it's smart refrigerators and maybe it's printers, who knows what. But these have the ability to go on the internet and do things and interact in a malicious way with a third-party service. So what they do is, you pay the money, you choose what service to target, and then you use an attack on, from all those devices at once, and suddenly they're getting hit with, 150,000 connections, or a huge amount of bandwidth is being requested of them or being sent to them. And a lot of times services can't deal with that very well. And it's very difficult to stop that, because if you want to stop it, you're basically saying, hey, I want to stop all connections. And so even if you can provide, stability to the infrastructure, you're basically stopping regular everyday users potentially from attacking, or from not attacking, from using the service as intended. So there are services that also kind of interact with your web applications that can protect you from this. They call it DDoS shields, or decentralized denial of service is the term for DDoS there. But yeah, basically what they do is they try to absorb the attacks because they have some degree of predictability, and they provide the ability for a lot of that to just kind of disappear at the proxy level, which is before they send the service, before the front end layer talks to the application itself. A lot of that stuff is mitigated so that the application itself can still respond as expected. Cloudflare is one such service that protects you from that. But yeah, getting back to the Web3 aspect of that, scam as a service is really just, anytime someone says, hey, I've got a contract and I want part of the rewards from the bad thing I'm going to do to a person.
Right. That's crazy. You've outlined so many protection type of strategies in what you've in when talking about common scams in crypto and NFTs. Is there one easy best practice that everyday users can adopt to protect themselves from scams when dealing with crypto wallets and NFT? Just like that one that anyone can easily do, or one or two?
So I would love to just say yes, but the answer is no, at least in my opinion. And let me know what you think about this. So imagine that you're dealing with any kind of potential scam. It could be, malware being installed in your computer so it can be remotely controlled. Or imagine that someone convinces you to sign something because you're interacting with something new, but that's something that you sign is bad. Or imagine that you've got a legitimate service that you're using, and it uses a proxy style contract, which means that they can upgrade the contract later through upgrading some other part of it than the part that you agreed to work with when you're interacting with your wallet. Now, once that happens, all of those things are potential attack vectors, which means there is no one thing that you can magically protect yourself with. What that would basically mean is that you don't interact with crypto at all. And that's not going to work for us. So what I usually suggest to people is two different things. One is something I've already told you, which is to vault your NFTs if they're expensive. You can also do that with, the fungible tokens. Maybe you have a bunch of Chainlink and you want to make sure that it's not at risk when you're interacting with something that has nothing to do with Chainlink. But the other thing is to use what I describe as segregated devices. So if you, for example, want to make sure that you reduce the risk of being your own bank, it really helps to use an environment that you can trust and that you only use for crypto. So, for example, if you want to day-to-day, be a degen and, do all the free mints and interact with swapping tokens and stuff like that, you can do it from a device that's purely for the purpose of doing that, which means that it's got all the latest security updates installed, guaranteed every time. You make sure that it always is fully updated. And then you just switch wallets and protect your assets by basically using one specific wallet just for these hot transactions where you don't know what risk you're taking on. And then everything else you dump into some completely separate, inaccessible thing where you can't get to it from the same computer. And you just dump those things that are valued at very high prices onto a separate device, or a separate wallet that can be accessed from a different device. maybe it's your phone, whatever it is. And then as you need those things, you put them back into a wallet that, you can take a risk with. But yeah, vaulting is basically a tactic. There's no one specific way to do it, but basically it involves taking assets that are high value and making them, connecting them to wallets that aren't easily accessible by the internet. So if someone does something bad to your computer, that wallet isn't magically at risk. So
Right.
yeah, that combination, vaulting plus segregated environments is a very strong tactic to protect you. There is also a lot of research to do, but that's one of those things. Education is really important, and I feel like no one wants to do it. Also, it's incomplete. No matter how much you learn, there's always more to learn. And, as someone who does this for a living, who basically deals with security type work, I know that even all the work I do is not going to be 100% complete knowledge of all the potential scams, tactics, smart contract vulnerabilities, or any other attack surfaces that exist in Web3 or even in Web 2.0, because they're always evolving. And there are going to be people who have, state-sponsored hacking groups like Lazarus, for example, from North Korea, where they employ large numbers of people whose entire job is to find new ways to scam you, to steal, to money launder, and do bad things.
Oh my God, that's insane. I do want to do a shout out, take the time to shout out to the blind waiter for joining. Thank you so much. And Josh just came up. Hi, Josh, Irina, and Ski. So glad of you to join. This is Tidus.eth, infrastructure and security engineer. We're talking about Web3 security and all that good stuff. Tidus, I'm glad that you brought up the whole education and awareness aspect. It's one thing, Web3 is such an exciting environment when people do come on. And you're right, they're not always thinking about security. There's so many things happening. It's not like, like the stock trade and there's like a certain time where you can trade. Everything is happening like so fast. You've because of education and awareness, it's almost like, do you even have a blog? Do you have like a YouTube channel or somewhere for resources? Okay, so here's the thing. What resources would you recommend for someone new to crypto and NFTs?
So I mentioned Alchemy at one point briefly, which is a fantastic platform to learn about tools that are available today. I've been very impressed with Alchemy because they basically break down the ability for tools to do things. And they don't, obviously tools can change and sometimes they're not necessarily going to be the same the next day. But the important thing is that they've got a very large list of typically open source technologies, but also, closed source, depending on what it is. That you can use to either protect yourself or to build more safely and securely. And sometimes that matters more than even just going, hey, I'm going to reduce the amount of dependencies that are involved, or I'm going to do things simply, or, whatever. Sometimes you just have to use other people's tools. And that's because sometimes those tools are, made by a team of 50 people whose entire job is to keep, these platforms more secure, that use these, tools as building blocks. So that's one thing. Also, if I had to choose a personality somewhere, like if I had to choose a person who, really understands what those attacks are going to be next, or is really at the cutting edge of that, I would choose Zach XBT. He's kind of brilliant. He's not the only source, of course, of, I would say, what hack is next and how did I trace it and stuff like that. And he doesn't always talk about the details, but it is a relevant, kind of like, I would say, digestible way for random people to go, okay, this is what I need to look out for next. This is who's getting attacked, and this is what way they're getting attacked. So that's Zach, ZACH XBT.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much. You know what? I feel like we need to have another episode of emerging threats. So let's do that. There's so much more going on, and you did touch upon Lazarus, and that is like definitely something for people to, if they don't know already. But let's table the emerging threats. I just thought of that. You should come back on. Let's go to regulations and compliance. So, like, what role do you think regulations and compliance should play in the Web3 ecosystem? Like, do you see a balance between innovation and security in this context?
Ooh, oh boy. Okay. So this is a heated topic, and I think there's a lot of like I would refer to them as maxis, or like, hey, people should be able to do whatever they want in the space, personal responsibility, blah, blah. But of course, we also deal with the fact that, massive centralized entities like FTX fail sometimes. And what that really means is that it makes a lot of sense to focus on things like proof of reserves. Now, Chainlink, one of the best companies, I would say, in the space that is doing building blocks for companies, for, basically people trying to provide a more secure or more robust on-chain experience, is providing the ability to attest to proof of reserves. So that means that you've got, a certain amount of money, maybe 1-to-1, the same amount of money or more as the amount that you, that you accepted from users on hand, in case for some reason you need to provide that as liquidity, or just, so you're not reinvesting in a way that's irresponsible to users. Now, that matters because if for some reason people say, hey, I don't trust Web3 tomorrow, they need to be able to withdraw their funds. They need to, be effectively like a bank, in the sense that if you're putting, fiat or even other forms of crypto into a centralized service and going, hey, I want to be able to get that back, that it's available. Also, that they haven't invested it irresponsibly or in a way that you can't get it back if you want it later. So usually it's more than 1-to-1 in terms of funds. But yeah, basically they should be able to, actually anyone should be able to attest, to prove, and go, okay, let's check and see what they have on hand. Let's check and see in what form they have it on hand, maybe. Or if that's not relevant, just that the money is there, that it hasn't been, mismanaged, invested in an irresponsible way. And proof of reserves basically provide a framework for going, hey, I can at least see that this entity, on-chain or off, is being responsible with customer funds. So, that's a big one. The other thing is that, I care a lot about privacy. I talk a lot about privacy this, privacy that, because I believe that one of the benefits of, using cash, for example, like US dollars in paper money form, would be a great example of, hey, I'm not having this money traced in a very specific way. If I want to go to a corner store and spend $20 on condoms or something like that, I don't want someone making a profile on me that I bought condoms, because that can be potentially weaponized, or, whatever. I don't know. Birth control might be a better example. The point I'm trying to make here is that there should be some degree of the ability to be private on chain. And I think that that's, at odds with government, or even, just, any kind of policing standards, which go, hey, we want to make sure that people aren't money laundering. We want to make sure that people aren't funding terrorism. These things matter too. And Vitalik Buterin, or Buterin, I'm actually not sure how to pronounce his last name. He's the most well-known founder of Ethereum, one of the many, has written quite a bit about the ability to aggregate transactions into privacy pools, which is the ability for you to spend from a wallet without being explicitly tracked as the spender of the crypto that bought the thing, or, to transact in a more private form. And that would be really nice, except that, of course, anonymity means that people can do whatever they want without being tracked for that bad thing they might be doing. So establishing yourself as one of the people that has a good reputation in that privacy pool potentially means that you can go, okay, this group of people with maybe small transactions or even large transactions have established that they're not, a bad actor, that they're not someone trying to steal, that they're not someone trying to fund terrorism, things like that. And so there are the ability to do things through things like this through zero knowledge proofs, for example, which is the ability to go, hey, I did something. You don't need to know everything about what it is, but I can prove one small aspect of that thing if you want to verify it.
True. 100%. Wow. I can't believe it's about, we're running over the hour. However, you did come on. Thank you, Elon and the X team, for that issue, but I'm glad it got resolved. I do want to bring you back. I want to talk about emerging threats in the Web3 space, and specifically the role of infrastructure in Web3 security. I think those are really deep dive types of topics that we can bring you back for. So the future of Web3 security. Here's the last question for this anyway. Looking ahead, Titus, what do you see as the future of Web3 security? Are there any upcoming technologies or trends that could significantly impact like how we approach security in the space?
So I think a significant target these days for hackers and people just trying to steal in general is liquidity. And right now we're not really sharing liquidity. Liquidity typically is provided on a per token, per chain kind of basis. And shared liquidity would allow for some degree of less funds to be centralized in a smart contract or whatever, so they can be stolen less, easily or at less quantity. So that would be a really nice thing to sort of get solved at an entire Web3 layer level, which means that if you could attest potentially that there are funds in one place that they could be spent in another, that's really tricky because of course immediately people are going to want to steal that way. Double spending and things like that would be a thing. The money goes out of this attested pool and yet gets spent in another would be a big deal. So if we can find ways to do that cross-chain, that would be fantastic, because bridging, basically the concentration funds at one end or the other end of a bridge is often a big target for hackers. That would probably improve our ability to, this is the really big problem, is that every time someone steals, once they have those funds available to them, you've basically enabled them to do a better job of stealing the next time. So that's a big problem. The other thing is that I would say, there are some standards that have sort of become at least known. Argent Wallet was one of those great examples of a smart contract wallet that's got a really good interface. And I think if we start seeing that on more popular products like MetaMask, people will start demanding them across everything they use. So I would love to see either Argent Wallet get more popularity, Gnosis Safe to have a better front end, things like that, where we suddenly have the ability to do very friendly, very simple things that are very hard to implement, such as multi-sig wallets, such as the other aspects of account abstraction, like sponsored gas. If those things start taking on effectively mainstream adoption, we can start going, okay, let's prioritize the security aspect of things, because we focused on getting past the hump of adoption in the first place. And I would love to see that. I would love to see people going, okay, let's prioritize multi-sig as a standard. That should be the way that we always do transactions, that, when that makes sense, or at least conditionally. Argent has the ability to do both. It's really great, which means certain types of transactions can be single signature type of things, but others can be multi-sig. After if a transaction is a high value transaction, it can be multi-sig, versus a really cheap one can be single. I love that. So these priorities when it comes to usability, but also security and doing these things on chain, will be very powerful for the adoption of Web3 as well as the protection for users in Web3.
Well, that's so true. I want to know, Titus, how are you for your time? Are you good?
I've got as long as you want in the next hour. So if you want to go on further, I totally can.
Okay, I love that, because I know we've got some people here in the audience. Josh, the blind waiter, they requested to speak, and I would really love to give the listeners an opportunity to ask questions. The blind waiter, thank you so much for joining. Is there anything you would like to ask Tidus?
Hey, thanks for having me. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm new to the crypto world, so I'm still learning. I'm just curious on your thoughts on Chainlink and what they're building and what they are doing over there. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Tidus, take it away.
Awesome. Well, Chainlink's great because there's so many reasons. The reason I originally heard about Chainlink back in, I think, 2019 was that they were providing the ability to do verifiable randomness on chain, which exists on chain already, but just not very well. The problem with on-chain randomness is that people were using the ability to sort of basically what the attack vector was that they would go, okay, I can predict that I'm going to have the same result as other people in the same block if I cram a bunch of transactions into one block. And that would result in, or even into one mempool. So what would happen then is that people would go, okay, I want something really good at random. Like, for example, I want the super rare NFT in the collection. And what they would do is they'd figure out how to get that by going, okay, I know if I do this certain thing at this certain time that I can force a transaction in and it'll be the result that I want. Like I get the most rare dragon in the Gala collection or something like that. And so they would abuse this over and over again and then, dump the NFTs at probably less than they're worth, but dump them immediately before the decentralized app provider would then get the problem solved. So that's a huge problem. And Chainlink solved that in one way by going, okay, we'll do verifiable randomness as a service. Basically, you have some Chainlink in your wallet, the link token, and you call this smart contract from this other smart contract you're using, and the result is something that is random enough that it is considered, strong. And it's also provided by a third party that isn't manipulatable or readable in that sense. If you're sending them a secret and you're getting back a secret, and it's, this is very positive that way. They do all sorts of stuff now. Proof of reserve was another thing I mentioned earlier. But the automation part is really the part that interests me, which is the ability for time or other events, even off-chain events, to trigger smart contract interactions. That's very powerful. Another one is, I think that it's called functions, which allows Chainlink to talk to APIs and then do things on Web3 as a result of that. So these are like really powerful ways to go. Let's take a real world event or some off-chain events, and we'll do something on-chain as a result of it. Like, for example, maybe you could do something clever like maybe it starts raining somewhere in the world and you use an API to figure that out. And then as a result of that, you make rain appear in the background of your on-chain NFT or something like that with the metadata on-chain. Something clever like that might be possible. And there are it could be finance-based. I think that's what most people care about these days, even though I don't. I'm not one of those people who really cares much about token prices, even though sometimes they are advantageous to me. I don't really invest like that. I really just want to build things. And so for other people, I may not be the best person to talk to when it comes to, hey, you should invest in this or you should spend money on this. I'm more of a utility person. I just want, the reason I buy Ether is so I can use Ethereum. Also, I hope that answers your question, by the way.
Oh, he dropped on his listener. Did he answer your question, the blind waiter? I'm pretty sure he did. Give us a thumbs up. Wow. Does anybody else have any questions for Tidus? I know I did, and then I don't know, had a little brain fart. Let me see.
Got a thumbs up.
Oh, great. That's great. That's so great. I wanted to ask a question. Okay, before this, you never know what's going to happen on X Spaces. I know some spaces have just gotten rugged all of a sudden. So I don't want this to happen so far, so good. If anybody wanted to get in touch with you, like they're listening out here, we're also being broadcasted in Metaverse Radio. People are listening and they're like, oh, I really want to talk to this guy about something. Where can they get in touch with you?
So the easiest way is here on X or Twitter, if you still prefer Twitter. I would rather it still be named Twitter personally, not that it matters. But Tidus, that's my username. It's pronounced Tidus. Tidus.eth is what you can search for, or just Tidus. That's a pretty easy way to find me. I guess you could also email me with anything, and I mean anything, like literally any string of characters, at tidus.org. That would also be a way to reach me. And yeah, I mean, that's basically how I'd recommend people contact me today. I love answering questions and being helpful. I'm not really one of those people who's going to go, hey, how dare you ask me this random question? I don't work for you. It's not like that. Security is one of those things that I think we all need to talk about, discuss, and otherwise grow. I also am really curious what people want to know about security. That helps me, in my day-to-day, helps me focus on what it is that people need. So the more I learn from users that are going, hey, I'm worried about, this attack vector that I read about on ZachXBT's feed, or I'm worried about this article I read. I want to know what people are actually worried about and what they're using to try to protect themselves. And that way, I have an idea of how to address a larger audience.
Okay, not meaning to put you on a spot, but have you had your own spaces where you can open up the floor for and make yourself available for questions like that? Or actually, I could see that more as a consulting thing.
I mean, so the fun thing about spaces is that anyone theoretically anonymously or otherwise can come up, create an X account, and start asking questions, and I love that. There is a scope, I would say, to spaces where you wouldn't want to try to solve someone's tech problem live on Spaces. That's just not the right forum. You probably need pair programming or GitHub commits and things like that to do collaborative stuff. The tools aren't really available through X directly, I think, to do that kind of consulting. But I could probably provide answers to questions, point people to the right information sometimes, and do things that can be done on a phone call in Spaces Live, and I'd be welcome to do that. I'd be happy to do it, but I don't really do that. I don't get on Spaces more, like for myself. I do it for other people asking. So I guess I could theoretically host Spaces on a regular basis for that. I haven't ever committed to doing so. The reason I'm here is because you asked me, and I'm really glad that you did, because I'm really enjoying this, as well as, it's fun to talk about security for me. I don't know. Maybe someday I will.
It is because so much. And I know for those of you listening in Metaverse Radio, we have a broad audience in Metaverse Radio. Literally they're the masses, mainstream masses. And I know that a lot of these things is very technical and very, very tech, very, very tech. Where here in Crypto Twitter or Crypto X or Web3 X, Web3 Twitter, we kind of the people that come onto these spaces are familiar with the lingo. They're here because they want to know, or they're curious about the Web3 security thing. But okay, so Tidus, here's something interesting. So Tidus and I, we met, shout out to Vanessa Banana, culturist. She actually had a space on Saturday on social engineering. And that was where I had the privilege and pleasure of meeting Tidus online during a space and hearing him talk. And I was like, oh my God, I need to get him into Tech Talk Tuesday. So I reached out to him on X or Twitter DM, and what did you tell me when you heard about the Tech Talk Tuesday space and broadcast?
That's so funny. I'm glad you reminded me about that, because I'd actually forgotten. I should have brought it up earlier. But the fun thing that we had overlap immediately between you and I, Digital Femme, which was you mentioning Tech Talk Tuesday as a thing that you wanted to bring me on as a guest for. A long time ago, I used to do an in-person Tech Talk Tuesday. I gave it the same name. I did it in person, and I would bring my laptop to a coffee shop locally and invite anyone that I'd met online that was in the area, or even just, their friends or whoever they wanted to bring. And I would be like, hey, come on over. Let's have coffee, talk about whatever you want computer-wise, and hopefully I can answer questions for you. And thankfully, I was able to be helpful, but I think I was interacting with a lot of people who were a little more new to the, I guess, tech space. This was also a long time ago. This was 10 years ago. So it is really awesome that we came up with the same name for a Tuesday event that was focused on technology.
Well, transparency's sake, I did not come up with Tech Talk Tuesday. It was Hexadize. He was here earlier. He's part of the Over community, and he came up with Tech Talk Tuesday. I did have a Talk Tuesday, I guess, YouTube live stream, and I guess he just added Tech Talk. But I love that there was that type of synergy. Do you miss that? Do you miss your Tech Talk Tuesday coffees in RL?
I mean, yeah, I do. To be really fair, I think that the pandemic sort of taught us all to be home a little more, and not necessarily in a good way. It's sort of more behavioral aspect of the way that we interact with the world now. And because it's possible to, do that, a lot of companies, they're like, we could bring people back to the office, but we can also just, stop renting that office space and save some money and, be decentralized. And there are a lot of benefits to that, but there are also some disadvantages. The benefits, of course, being that people are spending less time commuting, less time focusing on physical infrastructure, and more focusing on the digital aspect of things, which means they can often ideate and otherwise do things a little more quickly as a result of people being, I guess, in the most friendly environment to their their personal situations. The disadvantage, of course, is that, a lot of people interacted socially in offices. And when we all discovered that we weren't quite as safe in the world as we thought we were, due to, the pandemic and things like that, and, the concerns that come with that, we all sort of got a taste of what it can be like to be a little more isolated. And it's become more a default sometimes these days, I think, even though we've all, for the most part, in most countries, opened up again. The offices are open if we want to go, if they haven't been closed for good. And the businesses we used to go to for coffee or whatever are open again. But we're not as social as we were 4 years ago. And it's something we traded away. And I find that a little bit sad. So I'm a very social person. I'm extroverted. I didn't grow up that way, but I am now. And I do care about spending time with people. And so one of my favorite things to do is to go to conferences, talk to people about not just security, but really just anything tech, and really just anything, because NFTs are one of those great social connectors that we don't really treat as social in the way that we should. I think that we treat them as commodities or as like an investment or some sort of clicky thing. But the best thing about NFTs is their ability to take people who might not have anything obviously in common and turn them into, potentially a community, or even just people who are like, hey, I have the same interests as you. We have something to talk about. I would love to see more people interacting in person as a result of those NFTs.
Yeah, I hear you. I totally hear you. So Josh down in the listener in the audience, he's actually a chief security analyst and cybersecurity researcher. So I wonder if he's in the space. Josh, I love it if you could come up. And I'm thinking maybe we can have like on our next in a near future Tech Talk Tuesday, we can have you and bring on Josh and just, get all a deep dive on security and share each other's things. Josh, would you love to come up and speak? I know you're probably busy, and I've heard you on multiple spaces. There he is. I'm absolutely speaking on a variety of topics. So I'm so glad that you came onto this Tech Talk Tuesday space. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for joining. Do you have any questions or anything you wanted to add to this space or to ask Tidus?
No, nothing in particular. Just came to kind of hang out and listen a little bit. I don't know like a lot about Web3, I guess, and so I'm always interested in kind of learning more about it. I've never really gotten super into blockchain, NFTs, cryptocurrency. Like I have like a little bit of cryptocurrency, but not a lot. Like I've never like bought any. It's just something like that's always been kind of just a casual interest. But I do talk, with people a lot about cybersecurity in general, protecting accounts, which obviously can have a lot of impact for people who are really into Web3. How to prevent malware getting on your system and stealing your cryptocurrency, for example. That's been a really, really big thing over, I would say, like the past year or so, and increasing even more this year. We're even seeing this on the Mac, if you can believe that. Like, like Stealer malware is becoming a really big thing. And so, yeah, that's something that is a big interest for me. And the fact that Stealer malware often specifically focuses on going after wallets is something obviously that's really important for people who are into Web3.
Oh, wow. I love that you brought up that even on a Mac, because it's true. Like usually Mac Mac users are like pretty much safe from malware or any of that type of hacking. But yeah, it's, technology is getting sophisticated and hackers are getting more innovative and sophisticated. It's incredible.
It's more that Mac users think they're safe. But I mean, the reality is that, Macs are not actually any more safe than anything else. It's just that Apple's marketing for decades has told people that Macs are safer, and they still to this day, I mean, they're not really talking about security and malware as much in their advertisements in recent years, but they still say iPhone, that's privacy and things like that. And they get people kind of thinking that that means that, you know, if you're using any kind of Apple product, that means you're naturally safe just by default. And the reality is, I mean, you're just as susceptible to phishing and you know, people breaking into your accounts. Like none of that really matters when it comes to, you know, or your platform, I should say, doesn't matter when it comes to all of those like standard security practices that you should have, you know, making sure you're using unique passwords on every site and service that you use, you know, making sure you're using two-factor authentication and preferably not, you know, SMS text-based two-factor authentication, because it's really, unfortunately, gotten a lot easier for bad guys to do SIM swapping attacks and things like that. So, and by the way, these are all things that, again, directly affect people who are into Web3, because these are frequently used tactics to take over people's accounts and steal wallets and all that kind of stuff. So. So my perspective, like, I'm just interested in hearing kind of what's going on in Web3 security, just because it relates to kind of the broader like security ecosystem, and I'm always interested in hearing the latest on that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. You're right. That happened to me. My LinkedIn got hacked, but you're right about Mac users. I'm one of them. Apple's got great marketing, and it's almost like Mac users are like invincible, you know, like they've got the top end product you pay an arm and a leg for, when you can easily get that on a PC, maybe even more powerful, but half the cost. But yeah, that definitely is a marketing thing. You know, it's really about education and awareness, I guess. You're right. It doesn't matter what platform or device you use. It's really about the mindset and your perspective on like your behavior. It's like putting in place certain self-checks for you, like security self-checks. It really is an awareness and education thing. So glad you came up. I really I'm honored that you joined the space, Josh, only because transparency. I've seen you've been a speaker on multiple spaces of different topics, and I didn't know that. I thought you were all like deep dive into Web3. I'm glad that you got to like speak, and I'm just kind of like, it's almost like, to me, you're one of those space celebrities, only because I see you in a lot of spaces talking. No, I'm not kidding. It's funny, your perception of people, right? You just see their PFPs. You see them on X Spaces, these social audio platforms. And to me, you know, if you're a speaker, it's because if you're invited to be a speaker, it's because of your knowledge of your experience and what you can bring to the topic and to the listeners. So for those of you, I've seen Josh on multiple spaces, and I'm like, oh my God. So when you came into Tech Talk Tuesday space, I'm like, oh my God, Josh London's here. And there goes and Kiki, my dog Kiki agrees as well. She's doing a shout out to you, Josh. But I really love this. I'm glad we connected. Thank you for following me back. The Blind Waiter, thank you so much for that question about Chainlink. I too wanted to know, and I'm glad that Tidus had answered your question. I do want to do a shout out to Dovo Zuru. Oh yeah, three Meditat. Thank you so much for joining. Arena, Asaka, and Ria. These Tech Talk Tuesdays are on every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time on the East Coast. And I just do need to sort of like close this space because no cap, I do work remotely. So I think people are saying, why is Digital Femme still chatting her head away? Why are we still seeing a talking head on her Twitter feed? Isn't she like checking stuff? I will guys. I'm coming on over. If there's anybody left that would like to have a question, feel free to ask. Going once, going twice, going three times. Tidus, I'm gonna leave you to any last words.
Absolutely. And Josh, by the way, thank you so much for chiming in and for the follow. Happy to follow you back. It's really great to connect with fellow security professionals. One thing, and like both of you probably, I am an Apple user. Like there are some ways in which Apple succeeds when it comes to privacy. They, for example, do a lot of the things that would normally be sent to the cloud. They do them on chain, which is really quite powerful, which means that we're not, constantly being sold to based on the information that's in our location data and stuff like that. People get so scared when they see all this location data that you can view about your phone, but that's never sent anywhere, which is really just a powerful thing, an attestation to Apple giving a damn about privacy in the first place. And while I know that, like, for example, there's currently Apple Silicon hacks that allow for side channel attacks, which means you can take keys out of like encrypted implementations, which is just kind of scary because it's at the security, it's at the hardware level. It can't just be patched, and that means M1, M2, and M3 MacBook Pros, MacBook Airs are all vulnerable to the same attack. In general, we don't see a lot of those, especially at the hardware level with Apple. And the ability to basically run software that is verified at the install and also at boot, that's a very powerful thing when you pay for a company's hardware and software at the same time. So I tend to focus on using, for crypto purposes, I use Apple hardware that's starting with the Apple Silicon chipset and iPhones as well. That just gives you a little more security. Also, you can't just install whatever you want on the off of the App Store right now on Apple devices, on mobile devices, I should say, iPads and iPhones. So there's a little extra security there, but of course, you're then trusting Apple to do a good job in the App Store. And unfortunately, crypto apps that are malicious have gotten into the App Store recently. So while I would say it's still better, more secure for the average person to use Apple hardware for their crypto type transactions, it's not a magic secret bullet. You still have to do your own research. You still have to be diligent. You have to go, hey, is this safe? I don't know for sure. Ask the right questions. Do your own research in terms of that verification. And more than all those things, use open source software. I'm a big proponent of Bitwarden for basically doing password management. A lot of people were using 1Password for a while. It's a smaller company. They're kind of a mom and pop shop that actually staffed up really big, but they are not open source. A lot of people love them because they could do like 6-digit two-factor authentication codes, time-based one-time passwords on a watch. I guess Bitwarden even has that now. So there's not really any reason not to use Bitwarden. It's a very powerful tool to manage passwords because really you shouldn't know what your passwords are except for the password to get into Bitwarden or maybe to your computer, laptop, something like that. I could talk about two-factor authentication. Passkeys are my new passion when it comes to basically using cryptographic private and public keys in secure enclaves on devices and going, hey, let's do things like SSH keys or hardware, software wallets, things like that for crypto. But we'll do something just like that with public and private keys on a device and make them highly secure. That's very powerful. I've been using SSH keys for 15 years. So that's something that particularly speaks to me. And that's why crypto was so familiar when it comes to blockchain type stuff, because I immediately went, oh, private keys, I get that. That's familiar. So I love that kind of technology. I love seeing public and private keys used for more things. I think key servers are going to be the way that we do privacy one day when we start providing the ability to basically host our own ability to be identity servers. And that's a whole other discussion for maybe a future topic. I love being here and talking about security. I love talking about anything in this category of thing. But mostly I just want to know what else anyone else wants to know when it comes to security. I do everything when it comes to research. I've got like 12 hardware security keys within arm's reach of where I'm at right now. Solo Keys is my favorite provider right there. I know a lot of people have Google Titans for people who have hardware security keys. They're fine. They're just not open source firmware. So anyway, I digress. I know you have to get back to work, Digital Femme. And Josh, I'd love to talk to you more.
Oh my God, thank you for that. Yeah, I do. And you know what? The great thing about working remotely is because you can do this. And that's a whole other topic in itself. Definitely want to bring you on. I know we talked about that behind the scenes, and we'll continue to talk about that. But for everyone who's listening in Metaverse Radio, thank you so much. I'm so glad. A shout out to the Metaverse Radio team that they've given Tech Talk Tuesday the spot, and it doesn't necessarily have to be an hour. So this is really great that I can pretty much get a couple of more hours, and maybe we will one day. Thank you, Tidus. was been a pleasure listening to you and hearing what you've had to say. Thank you so much for your time. Shout out to Vanessa Banana Culturist for having that social engineering space last Saturday so that we can meet up. I'm looking forward to doing more spaces with you and probably a Tech Talk Tuesday coffee hour. And I have some ideas for that. Yeah. The Blind Waiter, thank you for your question. Dovo and Irina, thank you so much for staying. Now, before we do go, I will say that this program's content does not necessarily represent the views of Metaverse Radio and is for entertainment only. It is not legal, medical, financial, or investment advice. The hosts, guest speakers, artists, and other collaborators may have personal or financial interests in the subjects they discuss. So, please critically assess the information presented. Not all content is appropriate for all ages. Listener discretion is advised. Now, with that said, hope everybody has a wonderful Tuesday. Can you believe it's almost May? That is insane. Closing off, shout out to Tidus, Josh, the Blind Waiter, Dova, Irina, and all of those people listening on Metaverse Radio. You know how to reach me at DigitalFem. You can email me digital.fem@gmail.com for any questions. If you want to get in touch with Josh or Tidus or anything here, you can also email, or you know how to get in touch with Fred and the team at Metaverse Radio. Thank you so much. And Elon and the X team, please fix your X spaces. It is ridiculous. And as we end, let us end this with some really great vibes. And ciao, ciao, everyone. Da, da, da.
Welcome to Tech Talk Tuesday, a place to learn and grow. Gather around and share stories and watch our knowledge flow. We're building Web3's, a future that's bright and new. Come join the conversation, there's so much we can do. From blockchain to AI, the latest tech is here. We're diving deep, exploring how it all appears. Connect with the experts, contribute to the code. Let's revolutionize together and watch our dreams unfold. Welcome to Tech Talk Tuesday, where ideas ignite. Let's learn, let's connect, let's take our future to new heights. We're here to stay, let's build something truly great. Tech Talk Tuesday, the podcast that can't wait.
All right. Goodbye, everyone. Da-da.
Bye, everybody, and thank you.
All right. Another live stream. So, Metaverse Radio fans, like I have fans. Of course we do. Thank you so much. I know that's rather, like, honestly, I was like, whoa, that's a lot of technology. Like, thank God that the space was recorded. I'm definitely going to re-listen to that space and write down all the things that Tidus had said and look them up and like implement some type of like a process for myself. I love that Josh came on as well. It's true. Security is security. It basically, that's it. Like protection and security is something that we should not take for granted. It doesn't matter how tech you are or non-tech. It is what it is, right? So with that said, hope everybody out there in Metaverse Radio who is listening learned something. And see you again, or not see you. I'll feel your energy, but join us again. OMG, Kiki, on next Tech Talk Tuesday. Tech Talk Tuesday. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your week. And I believe that tomorrow, let me see. I know that she's all over the place, is having a She's broadcasting, and it's an interview series today around 6 Central Eastern Time, 6 p.m. And then tomorrow at, I believe, 8, there we have the Filipinos in the Metaverse with the Derby one, Craig Wilson. And then shortly after that, we have DJ Charles Hexadize with Web3 Wednesday. So don't forget to check that out and see you or hear you, or I'll be back on next week. And everybody have a great day. I did say that. Now I have to remember to log off, because last time I didn't. Okay, let's log off, everyone. Alrighty then. So I guess, okay, so I'm just going to talk to myself right now. Is it logging? It's connecting. Hang on, how do I do this? Do I just log off? I'm logging off. But is currently streaming. Do we really want to close But now? Yeah. So interestingly, But, B-U-T-T, really legit But is a software that I use to connect to Metaverse Radio with radio.co. I know it's crazy. And I'm gonna stay here to make sure that I am actually going to be off the air, because a previous Tech Talk Tuesday space, I did not log off the Metaverse Radio, and it's a good thing, like, I didn't do anything to embarrass myself, but I thank God I got it. Oh, good. I am. It's definitely off. Yeah. So I just learned something. What I learned was, so I do these behind the scenes live stream. And the reason why I do these is because it's my way of just showing up. And it doesn't really, to me, I don't really, it's not my concern if anybody watches these behind the scenes. I just do this to practice doing this. Like, I'm doing this literally to practice developing a certain SOP, like a process where I could handle, I know what's going on here with the Twitter spaces. I know what's going on here. I want to challenge my brain. I want, especially in the morning. I'm not a morning person, guys, but and yet here I am. And I want that challenge of, can I do this? Can I make sure that the audio setting is right? Can I do this? Well, yeah, I feel like I got the audio setting down pat, the videos down pat. I've got like the music. I know what to say. I have the disclaimer up. But what I didn't do, and what I have to include, is if I am waiting for a speaker to come on, I'm not just relying on the technology to put them on. God, and I should know this. I should know that never to rely on technology. 100%. That really is my default. I'm really like a manual person. I will, like I had a car and my car was standard, and they asked me if I wanted to put automated windows, and I went, no, I want the windows that go like this. And then they all looked at me like, are you sure? And I'm like, oh yeah. The reason why I said this, because I've been in cars multiple times or road trips where you've had that automatic up and down thing, and then the window gets stuck, and then it's freezing cold, or there's like a thunderstorm and rain, and you can't, get the electricity going. So no, I'd rather manual all the way. I even have an e-bike, and I barely use the pedal assist, like for reals. So, okay, so what I did learn was, again, Carmen, Digital Femme, never count on technology. And I should know this, even though I said that there have been issues with, what's it called? With X Spaces. But I did not check. I should have checked earlier on if Tidus was actually messaging me. Yeah, so, and he actually messaged me right at like 9:01 saying, hey, is the space started? I'm not able to go on. And if I were to have checked that, then I would have known, hey, why isn't he able to go on? And I would have been able to facilitate creating another space link sooner. Also, so I'm here live streaming behind the scenes, and he had also managed to message me. So I'm here. So as the space is going on and Tidus is answering questions, I'm checking like the chat in, I guess, the general chat of this Talk Studio thing that I'm using. And there's like I have like 88 chat messages. And I'm like, 88 chat messages? What? Double infinity? What? So I look and it's all Tidus. I apologize, Tidus. He's like, Digital Fam, you know I'm here. I can't log on. Like, he's basically alerting me. But because this is very audio centric, I'm trying to minimize the external sounds, except for my dog. So I literally muted like my phone, like all the tabs. I muted everything. So of course I did not get to see, I did not get to hear any of the notifications that Tidus has been sending. In addition to, I did not get to visually see the chat because when I did the live stream, I was literally on the Metaverse Radio tab, and I don't normally see myself. I don't look. I never, like, if I ever do a recording. Are you kidding me? I don't see myself. I don't check. I barely even want to hear my voice, but it is what it is. That's just something a little bit about it. And yeah, I have been checking emails and things, and so far so good. And there's no dire emergency needed. But yeah, I just, I really want to do producing. I used to produce podcasts for the Beyond Growth. It's called the Beyond Growth Show. And I had a team of, or we were a team of 3, and everything was done remotely. We did virtual events. And I missed that when I used to work for a marketing group in Toronto. This dog, I mean it. It's crazy. Kiki! I'm going to message Tidus actually, but that was like fantastic. So, oh yeah, I'm so excited because it's funny how, it's not funny, it's kind of like serendipitous that he had a Tech Talk Tuesday in real life where he would like go into cafes with coffee and with his laptop and just invite people over to talk about technology and get them to ask questions and stuff, because I did that in Germany. Like I did the Frankfurt Girl Geek dinners that we did monthly, where this Girl Geek dinners is like a global thing. Like each city, like there's a Frankfurt Girl Geek dinner in New York, Bay, New Jersey, whatever, right, in every city. And these Girl Geek dinners are basically dinners held by women or hosted by women to talk about technology. And only women were invited. However, you can bring a man, as long as men were able to join or to come to these events, as long as it was invited by a woman. And the mission and goal of these Girl Geek dinners is really to, I guess, to profile women in the technology space. Well, this was like, what, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years? No. Yeah, I know Sarah Blow out in London. She was the founder of Girl Geek Dinners. So London Girl Geek Dinners was one of the first ones, and then it all spread out. So if you're watching this in the future, wherever you're watching this, Facebook group, Twitch, I'm streaming on YouTube and Twitter or X Space. You can just Google Girl Geek Dinners in your city and to see if there is a Girl Geek Dinner in your city, and then you can like join them. I believe a lot of the Girl Geek Dinners are on meetup.com. So that is great. I know there's one here in where I live in the middle of Canada, but I don't know if they're active anymore. But yeah. Okay, so I digress. Yeah, Tech Talk Tuesdays. Who doesn't love coffee and technology? Like I love coffee, but interestingly, I see this cup. The reason why it looks like really weird is because it's kind of like a bulletproof coffee, sans the grass-fed butter. That's like $15 Canadian, folks. I just use MCT oil, the Costco brand, Nutriva, whatever, and with my coffee. So that's why it looks a little bit like, ugh. And honestly, no cap. I don't even, that's already cold. And I love coffee so much. I think I just love the idea of coffee, like the whole process of preparing it and what it means. It means like starting the day. I love the smell of coffee. I like the taste, but that I never really finish a cup of coffee. I remember I used to take a lot of Instagram photos about coffee cafes and all that. And I don't know, somebody messaged me and said, wow, you're really addicted to coffee. Like you really love coffee. And I'm like, yeah, I love coffee, but I don't drink a lot of coffee. I just take a lot of pictures of the coffee that I have because it's kind of like, why not? Because I can, but I never really finish a cup of coffee. Anyway, But I kind of feel like I'm going to ask Tidus if we can do these monthly or weekly Tech Talk Tuesday coffee meetups, like with spaces and Metaverse Radio, and like here virtually. Yeah, like he's a tech guy. I'm sure he could have easily just came on and we could have done like not just the behind the scenes, or we can actually do behind the scenes, but then on Twitter Spaces. But then we could also just do regular like live streams, and they're not behind the scenes, so it's like literally a video podcast. And in addition to streaming on Metaverse Radio and Twitter Spaces, the only thing is it's such an audio thing, right? Like you have to really get your audio right, because there's so many like input sources, and is it outputting right? I got the handle on this, like where I can live stream and there is no sound feedback. I had that down pat. Now it's another story introducing someone else, especially if they are going to be on a Twitter space. Yeah, we'll figure that out. Anyway, like I could talk forever, like Tech Talk Tuesday. So let me just check. I'm gonna message him. I know, Elon. I'm just reading. You know, it's. Oh, I love this. Yes, totally, 100%, 100%. Yeah, I will say there's so much I want to say, but I'll ask Tidus first, and then whatever happens, and then you'll just see. But I guess I'm gonna end this live stream. I do, I just used to stream on Twitch while working. Like, was it 2 years ago? Yeah, I would just literally work and stream on Twitch, and people would join and they would ask, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I would say, "Oh, this is what I do," and I would like tell them about, like that the certain company. Oh, here's a spam. Oh no! So I'm checking Facebook and Instagram DMs and messages, and like, oh, just loving these. I have something to offering you. Oh, no. So what I've noticed, speaking of spam and scams, you get once in a while, and pretty much weekly now, I will get these random Facebook messages. So I oversee or moderate some social accounts for Over the Reality. And, I know, I'm pretty sure other people are seeing this too, but you get these random DMs saying, "Oh, your account is being violated, and if you don't fix this, if you don't click on this link, basically, we will delete your Facebook page." And I get this so much, and it's really crazy. And nah, I don't click on anything. As a matter of fact, I make sure to take screenshots, and I mouse over the profile, and I'll screenshot the profile of the person just to prove that no. Like, you're telling me that Mr. Facebook user. Usually that's what it is. It's called Facebook user. First they have a name and some ridiculous PFP or profile photo, and then they have a name, and then like the next day they're gone and it's Facebook user. That's so annoying. But it's crazy. So I'm just going through the messages. Ooh, look at this. And one person is saying, "Give me free token." Okay, just download the Over the Reality app. Follow go and tap onto the mapper feature. Follow the simple tutorial and map, and then earn over tokens, dude. That's all you gotta do, dude. Okay, I'm gonna reply. We're gonna like these. And then I'm gonna reply to this person. I love my I guess, job. It is a job. I love it. It's so different from being a trauma nurse. Hmm. Like I know when I used to work full time for the Toronto marketing agency and had 2 real estate clients, and then I got a gig with Over handling their Twitter like way back in July 2021. And what's interesting was people who recently knew me and they didn't know my past, they would say, "Oh my God, like you're always online. You really work hard." And I'm like, "Work hard? First of all, who wants to work hard? Don't you just all want to work smart?" And then I'm like, "Work hard? Oh, no, 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 no." And then they're like, "What do you mean work hard?" And then they say, "Oh, but you're always online doing things." Really? I just do this, like typing, putting up all these 50 million tabs and keeping track and stuff. And yes, all interfacing with clients and producing the podcasts and stuff like that. That was all fun. That was like screen time intensive, but no, 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 not working hard at all. Nursing is working hard. Trauma nursing is working hard. Coding a 420-pound man that fell on the floor and having to straddle him to do your chest compressions. At the same time, respiratory is like stuck at the back of the wall trying to get the trach, inside so that we can vent him. That is stressful. Having like 8 patients on the floor, and then your 8 patient isn't like all in one room. It's like one patient's there, like it's everywhere, and you're like, no, 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 no. Nursing was hard. Cath lab, all that stuff. That was like hard. Challenging because it was so emotional. It was very psychological. You had to like stand your ground with the surgeons and the doctors and even the family members. You really had to be a patient advocate, and like be a patient advocate and speak for the patient. Even when it comes to family, like when your patient needed rest, you had to be able to boot the family members out because you're really there for the patient. Except no, healthcare system is really been a shit show. They kind of like took away the role of the priority of patient care and really made it more of customer service. Like customer service to the patient and customer service to the family, customer service to all the auxiliary healthcare staff, like basically customer service. Do everything with a smile. Yeah, but first of all, there's a life involved. So yeah, that's a whole other story in a podcast. I was talking with one of my one of my very good friends, Helen, and we recently caught up, and she was thinking of doing a podcast related to like nursing and health and the healthcare profession in the context of nursing. I'm like, yeah, I'm up for it. I mean, I'm not a nurse now, but I still have stories, and stories still kind of like it's interesting how there's still the same issues. It's not even interesting. I got to use a better word for interesting. It's sad and frustrating that there are still the same issues. Oh dear, I'm still streaming because I'm still talking. Yeah, I'm going to end this. Oh, hey Anne, I listened to part of your tech talk. I didn't understand what Tidus was saying. I know, it's so but I was interested in seeing what you are doing these days. Oh, thanks, Anne. I'm going to definitely message Anne. Yeah, I got to check these things. Yeah, I have to write an SOP for myself. So when I'm doing these live streams and stuff, please, Carmen, check your messages. Like make sure to like actually check if the people are messaging you saying that they cannot get on and why they cannot get on. That was like my bad thing. All right. Thank you for those that are watching the live stream. Shout out to Patty. Oh my God, Patty. She's always on here. Patty Ramirez. I worked with her at McAllen Medical Center in McAllen, Texas. Shout out to her. She really like that was 5 West, the hospital unit, and she was really the glue. I always that that girl's memory was crazy. I always told her, man, Patty, you need to work with the Pentagon or CIA or something, because she could remember every single number. It was ridiculous. She knew all the doctor's numbers, all the doctor's pager thing, like every single thing. You never had to look it up. So anytime I needed something, I would just ask Patty, hey, what is this? And she would just have it. I'm so glad that I'm still connected to her. So that's a good thing about social media and Facebook. There's a lot of, I'm still connected with a lot of the nurses that I've worked with, and auxiliary staff and doctors as well. So it's really good to be connected with them. And especially Anne, I'm going to go message her. Yeah, I'm going to close this live stream. Who knows? Maybe I'll just go back on Twitch and just do my regular being on Twitch and like working. That's about it. All right. I'm going. Everybody have a great Tuesday, April 23rd. It's going to be my sister's birthday in like 5 days. There's a lot of birthdays in April. Unbelievable. Anyway, again, have a great day, everyone. Live stream behind the scenes ending. Play outro.